Hello. I guess we're gonna go ahead and get started here. Can we get some action in the chat? Let me know who's here. It's different doing this without Alex here, but yeah, we're gonna get started. So let's see. Let's just make sure I can hear. Yes, you guys can hear me. That's good. We're gonna start with the Workout Wednesday challenges. So let's go to my screen, and there's a couple different ways that we can go through this. I've done week 1 and 2. There's some, and I think I did week 3 just sort of as by accident when I was doing week 2. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with week 5 and 6, and then when we get to week 8, we'll come back and do week 4. That way we're doing, sort of starting with data sets and everything. Hi, Megan. And yeah, so we're going to jump right into week 5 and look at what it says to do. Okay, so we've got a new data set. That's good. That's why I picked week 5. We don't need to build out a dimensional data set yet. And we're going to make some visuals. Great. I think what we'll do, the last couple times I did this, I sort of went all out over the top, all the bells and whistles, created measures we didn't need, everything, made a dimensional model when it wasn't called for. And I think this time we'll do all the challenges on a data set first, and then we'll talk about how to go over the top after that. So yeah, I already downloaded week 5, and we've got a blank report. Looks like we've got some measures created for us. Looks like we've got auto time intelligence on. Let's take a look. The directions said that there were some cool functions to get data. So let's see what they're doing. So they're pulling in a web page. They're doing some filtering, and then they're invoking a function to get the data for each report. And what does the function do? I see. It turns the data from the list into URL parameters. Cool. Okay. So that's how this works. So I'm going to pull the directions back up and put them over here where I can see them. So 3 cards, 1 for each of total sightings, percent in American Southwest. We need a card, not a slicer. And this one's supposed to be percent suspected hoax. Great. And then let's let's get these all sort of the same. Nope, that's not going to be big enough. Great, that's going to be our object size. Come on. So basically, actually, there's an easier way to do this. 212, 12. Yep. 212. Yep. And top. Great. Group. Great. We've got our slicers. And the next step is to create a column chart. Sightings over time based on when they were posted. So, posted. We'll use the default hierarchy. That's look like what they're using. And total sightings. Great. That's a good start. Let's see. Column chart, matrix visual. Bam. We will get to design and laying things out in a little bit. So total sightings by location, shape, and duration. And it looks like it's drilled down. So total sightings, location, shape, duration. This is what they have in mind. And then we want to sort this way. Okay, so I can already see one bell and whistle here is going to be to categorize these by states. Well, they already have that. So let's at least do this. And then do, because we've got a whole bunch, if we take state off, we've got a whole bunch that are not categorized into a city. So the most appropriate summarization is probably state to start with. And then that's annoying. We want, okay, so drill down feature. Great. So this is more of an analytical question. So I think we're ready to move on to the design phase. Hey, Theo. So Workout Wednesdays are a challenge set of Power BI and Tableau challenges put together by some members of the community. For Power BI, it's David, Spencer, Shannon, and I think, yes, Megan, who's here with us. And I think there was one other person. We're starting with week 5, but I think we'll go back to week 3 and 4 later. So yeah, that's what this is. They're good introductory challenges, but I thought it would be a good way to do some sort of live stream Power BI work, and we can talk about some bells and whistles on top of the challenges once we sort of check all the boxes. Okay, so we've got all of our objects here. The presented report had some design to it, so let's not neglect that. So I'm gonna do, we've got sort of 3 objects. So let's open up PowerPoint and come up with a design. That's how I always do my designs. Actually, usually I go to Chris Hamill's blog and download a design, but today we'll go and we'll do our own thing. So basically, we want to have a shape that's flat with no outline and a shadow, so something like this with no outline. Oh, that's the text. No outline. That's got a gradient. We don't want that. Bring this over. Fill. Let's do a solid fill, something like this. And then let's give it a shadow. That, yeah, these are usually good backdrops. So they're doing a black theme. So let's do this for our background. Great. And so we're gonna have a chart, maybe like this. And This is roughly gonna be the layout that we're going for. And let's see. So now let's look at our positions. This is gonna be, let's set this to 1 inch. Yeah, that's too big, 0.5. Okay. And then let's snap this. Yeah, like that. And then let's see. So this is, let's make it, no, that's fine. Let's make it 8.25. That looks like decent proportions and gaps. Yeah. Let's measure this gap. What is this? Width 0.5. That's great. So we've got symmetrical boundaries around. Okay. So then let's go back to our vertical positions. So from top, 1 inch. Yep, that seems good. So let's insert another shape. So we'll probably spend more time today in PowerPoint than in Power BI, the way this is going, but you know, that's the way it goes. So let's make this 0.5 so we can have symmetrical borders here. Great. Great. There we go. I don't know why it's not giving me snap lines there. I guess we should have saved the gray background until we were ready, but what's the height on this thing? Let's make it 1.25. Right. I think we now have a nice balanced layout with room for a heading. I like to do my title objects in Power BI rather than PowerPoint because you're probably going to want to have some dynamic elements. For example, in the directions, they have this in the last 5 years in the header. If we were going to add like a date slicer, we may want to make that number dynamic. So anyway, pre-programming the heading into the background is not a good idea, usually. So I think this is a good layout for things. I think this might be a little too narrow. So let's see. This is 8.8 inches. Yeah, let's make these 8 flat. And that would make this 0.85, but we want to that. Yeah, I think that's going to be better for our matrix. Okay, so now that we have this, we want to save this. So we can export, change file type, save as image. Let's go into my GitHub. Let's do a new folder. Week 5. Alex, if you want to send me some pizza, by all means. No one is going to object to that. Yeah, random acts of pizza sound like a great idea. And thank you for the birthday wishes, everybody. So backgrounds, What is the topping of choice? Oh, well, of course, it's got to be Canadian bacon and pineapple. That is really quite excellent. So then we're exporting this slide as an image. It offers you to export all slides, but the image format won't work if you do that. So you have to choose just this one, which is fine. So week 5 background. But this is our first page. And then let's save this to the same thing. Yeah. And so now we have a layout. We have a background. So let's add the background. I need to click out of the visual first. And this is a different project. Oh yeah, here's our folder of all of our stream elements. Those are fun to make. So let's do this. Set the transparency to 0. It's very silly that the default transparency for page backgrounds is 100%. I think that's just sort of a holdover. Okay, so now let's... Yeah, that's great. Okay, we're gonna need to change a whole bunch of formatting options now that we've got this dark theme going on. But get our visuals all lined up. Let's extend this out here because as we drill down, we're gonna want that. Right. Okay. So now I think we need to work on fonts because the fonts are too small. They're the wrong color. So let's start with our data labels. Usually these are too big, but we gave ourselves lots of room up to the top here. I don't want to change all the fonts, so we'll just keep it on Den, which I'm not really familiar with, but that's fine. Let's do white here. Category labels. You know, I don't think white is going to work. I don't think I made this gray dark enough for white to work. So what are we going to do? I may need to change this gray. Because it's black is fine, but I don't want everything to be black. I want to have at least some contrast sometimes. And so if all my elements are on sort of black required, that's going to be a problem. Let's see. Maybe we can get away with no. That's just bad. It's not enough contrast to be useful, and I don't think the contrast is high enough. So let's go back to the PowerPoint and change these. How about that? And then let's change the background to that. Great. I think that's going to be better. So, right. I always want to right click on the slide to export it instead of come into here, but no. Okay, just this one. Background. Why does that not look any different? Good. feel like it doesn't look any darker. I mean, no, those are clearly not the same. So let's try not overwriting. Come on. This one. Okay. Did I not? Where is it? I feel like now we're just gonna go in circles. Oh, I see. This is my OneDrive folder, and this is the local copy that's synced with OneDrive, but somehow they're not syncing fast enough. Okay, well, let's... And maybe I shouldn't keep one source control and another version of source control, but... Okay. Much better. Okay, so now we can safely use light text, I think, I hope. I bet there's a nice like contrast checker that we could have used to find out, which, yeah. So, let's do these. Category. Oh, that's so much better. So now we can do, oh, well, I guess all white is fine. I know I said I wanted to be able to use more than one shade, and we still can't do that because I didn't go even, Shannon went even darker, but I don't want to go that dark. Okay, so our bar colors. I feel like we need, green is great, but we need to be more UFO. And so, title. I like this. I'm just gonna copy what Shannon wrote. For time, use, else. And then font color needs to be here, and the font needs to be, you know, correctly spaced. Perfect. Okay. We'll turn off grid lines. So let's talk about grid lines. When I was studying chemistry in college, they were very insistent that you needed to have enough axis marks to be able to interpolate between your axis marks. And I think that's great for scientific charts. I think for something like this, you just turn the axis off entirely and label all your bars. I don't think adding the scale here, I mean, having the 0 point is helpful. Although it would be nice if we could all just assume that all charts are 0 indexed. But we can't. I don't like the thousands here. I mean, it's tough because if someone does, well, I guess it won't be thousands in anyway. So, with just this few bars, having them fully spelled out is good. Y-axis, color, white, font size. Yeah, this is good. So anyway, if we label all of our points, we don't necessarily need grid lines. If we're not going to label our points, there's a school of thought, at least among the chemists that I grew up with, that then we should have really not just grid lines, but mid-grid, like minor axis tick marks, so that it would be very clear exactly what the spacing is and that you could accurately interpolate. However, one, Power BI doesn't really make that easy, and two, not a huge fan of that for business charts. It's like, yeah, I think it's better to just tell people what the number is than make them try and figure it out. I think that was a good approach in preparing for journals, because you couldn't have like mouse over tooltips and everything. Okay, so now I want a green, but I want a more alien green. So let's do this. I'm gonna use my web browser and I'm gonna look for UFO images. Oh yeah, see, that's the green we want on our bar charts. So let's do this. Let's use a color picker and let's pick this green. Oh, I don't know if that's what we want after all. Oh, maybe this. So, yeah, there we go. That's what we want. So now, now we can come into these bars and there we go. Now it feels like we've got some UFO action. Okay, Phil, let's look at your recommendation here. Data colors. Let's pick 1 year so we can compare side by side. So what was it? 60. 208. 112. Well, those are both good. Great, we'll go with Phil's color. So actually, I'll turn this off. Here. Go. Oh, you think mine is better? Well, I guess. How do I? Oh, just revert to default. That's what I want to do. Stop. No, I think yours shows better on this. Okay. So let's look at the matrix now. I think we definitely need to change the default style. None is not for this background. I can never remember what any of these are. I think Shannon used sparse, maybe. Okay. Grid. Let's try it this way. Column headers. I usually like, first of all, let's try, let's look at our row headers. Ugh, no. What does this look like if we format properly? I guess this can be condensed. That looks decent. Shape. Wider though. So that's a good question. They never really spell out, like, is the aim here to replicate the report in terms of how it looks? So no, the requirements just say we need to create these visuals, and then at the end there's a question that we're supposed to answer. But for the purposes of this exercise, we are not going to produce bad looking reports. Oh, there's a fun little icon here too. Especially, so we'll just have to see how much time is consumed. But you know, we want to make it somewhat interesting and use as much of the program as we can. So let's see, 8, yeah, that's a good. Oh, caps lock. My phone just buzzed. Is this Alex telling me that there's stuff? No. UFO sightings or not. Last years. The other thing similar to that is that while and then let's actually center this on the page. I'm spending more time working on this design than I would for most reports that I do at work. Part of that is because my job is not to produce reports that we're going to refresh week after week. So as long as I can get a quick answer, that's great. Okay, so I think for the format, I like this as the option to be drilled down all the way. To make this work, I guess we can just make total sightings. I don't produce reports that we're going to use time and again very often. And so usually the reports that I build are supposed to answer a person's question. And so as long as they can understand the report, I don't worry about making it clearer, or I tell them that's their job, because actually they build Power BIs and I just help them figure out the data side. So it's nice to take some time and work on report design, which is something I used to do, but not anymore. So back to our layout here. I feel like we need something different, and I don't know what it is yet. I don't like the matrix formatting functions here. So do we take into account colorblind friendly? We will in some of the other challenges. I don't always explicitly get into it, though we do try to keep the good contrast. That's not just for colorblind. And here, like, if we had multiple colors, that's when it would get more important. At least that's my understanding. You know, it's not critical that we pick a green that is going to read nicely, as long as the contrast is good and they can see that it's a bar and not just a big gray blob. But when we get deeper in, that will, if we were using 3 or 4 colors here, that's when it would be really important. Like, we wouldn't want to pair those 2 greens we were looking at. But for now, we're just trying to make something look nice. And then I think in a challenge on this data set later on, if we get to it, if we don't spend 30, 40 minutes on every week, it's challenge, then we will look at some actual accessibility checker tools to really measure some of these contrast ratios. So I feel like, here we go. Here's the setting that I want. Yes. Do some banded rows. And feel I have a wave 3 from Elgato. It's quite nice. Okay, so what do we think of this? This is starting to fit with our design a little more. And it's just our headers. And I think if we bring this, what if we go with, and let's, oh, the other thing we need to do, which starts to invalidate some of our layout stuff that we did. Error. I think this is good enough. Great. So one last thing that we have in the main is, let's get Zoom it running. There we go. We've got this fun little UFO icon. So let's come into PowerPoint and let's see if we can do something along those lines. So the best way I find is to just use the built-in icon library, which is massive. So let's just see. Maybe that's, oh, yep, that's what Shannon did too. So I think she used this one, and here, and this, and 0. Oh, she did like, I don't think we can go quite that light. Yeah, that'll work. Okay. Yeah. Okay, we'll switch our title to being aligned with the icon. So let's export this again as, save. This time we know we're saving it in the right place. Okay. Yeah, Alex, the built-in ones are pretty good. It used to be, as a Microsoft employee, if you went to Brand Central and poked around, there was an icon library that was really good, and now those are like fully integrated into we're gonna do this again where it's not saving to where I think it's saving, and so yeah. I stopped having to download the Brand Central stuff because I feel like what's built into the product with this new icon picker is as good or better. There we go. And now we no longer want to center this. We want to align this here with our top bar. Yeah, there we go. In fact, let's see. Let's do this. No. How about, can we type a font or do we have to choose their fractional fonts? I think we have to type it. That sucks. Because I would really like, well, maybe if we go, yeah, there we go. Now it nicely lines up on our UI elements. Yeah, that's good. I like that a lot. Okay, so let's save this into our GitHub, and let's go on to the next. Let's look back at the challenge, and see. Use the drill down feature to find the number of fireball-shaped UFO sightings in June 2020 in Las Vegas, Nevada. Okay, so we want to look at, let's sort alphabetically. And then let's come to Nevada. Let's do, and I think, nope, that didn't work. Whatever, let's just scroll to it. Drill down all the way, and man, California. Yeah, this sucks. Okay, great. I don't remember what the right click to drill on individuals is, so filter pane is our friend. Nevada. Great. Las Vegas. Shape. Fireball. Okay, the number of fireball shapes, 8. 8 is the answer. So, oh yeah, you're right, it's this. I always forget about that, because I always use this one, so if we clear our filters again, we find Nevada. I feel like it's got to be near the top. Sort alphabetically. To Nevada. Oh, it wants us to click here, Nevada, and then find Las Vegas. And I guess I clicked a whole bunch, but yes, 8. Great. I always forget about this one. I use these two almost exclusively. So now that we've sort of played with the drill up and drill down, I'm not a huge fan. 2020, yes. Did this? Yeah. 2020. Yeah. There we go. And then North Las Vegas. Well, that's an interesting Las Vegas / oh man, we've got an interesting data categorization issue. So it's not necessarily just what we see in the Las Vegas category, but we'll live with that. So now we have just one. Great. Thank you, everybody. Yeah, June. Well, it's still going to be 1 unless there's something really crazy going on. To turn this off, and yes, 1. Great. And how did this get? We had this perfect. There we go. So what we learned while doing this about our design is that while we had the design worked out to look very nice here, the design is not very nice if you choose other settings in the drill through. So one thing would be to get rid of, where is it? Yeah, it's in row headers, step layout, turn that back on. So now as we drill, and then we have to make this wider. Now as we drill down, our layout stays consistent. Like so. And the other thing is we didn't really size this quite correctly to the shape, because we're not actually using the shape anymore, except maybe its shadow effect, because we haven't put transparent elements in. And the reason we didn't do that is to do it this way, because it wants to snap to the chart. To do transparent elements in a matrix is tricky, because getting the alternating bars right can be a real challenge. So now as we navigate our drill down, we can consistently have a nice clear design. If we continue to drill whatever setup we have, it's a little harder to understand what the totals are doing, especially when we have so many single row items, but I think this is better. Okay, let's move on to week 6. So, and have this here. Okay. Oh, so we have a new data set. Oh, this is one of Megan's. Great. File. And down. Okay. Going to filter the page, create a matrix, create a column chart. Great. This won't be too hard. So okay, so oh look, we've got a little bit of a dimensional model. So I really like to organize my dimensional models a little differently. I think this is something that I heard is something that Rob Colley teaches, but I always like, whenever possible, to sort of have facts on the bottom, dimensions on top, and I like just to put the date table on the side because it can be a little confusing. I also love this new collapse mode where you just see the keys. I think that's really good. Okay, so we know a little bit about our data set. Let's, even though this isn't the challenge, let's see. Okay, so we're not going to be able to refresh or edit the data model. That's good to know, because if we try to, add a Power Query step or something, it's going to break these refreshes. Generally speaking, in a business context, I would tell my users that they must put this type of data in SharePoint Online and use the SharePoint link, because this obviously will only work on Megan's computer and no one else's. Data.world is really great. Spencer used that in the original challenge. Yeah. For this type of thing, it's just fine. But it does mean that we're not going to be able to muck around in here at all, which is fine. It's just a question of, Megan, once we get through a bunch of these, I want to try and go above and beyond and say, how can we take these and apply a whole bunch more like we did with the first data set? And so we won't be able to do that with this data set. Not that there's a ton that I think we need to do, because you've already done a fair bit of it. So let's see. It says that we should filter the report page to only show years after. Well, let's bring the challenge back up and see. It says that we should filter the report page to only show years after 2013. So we can select, when I do full screen. So I'm using a ultra wide monitor, and then I've got OBS only capturing part of the monitor, and I'm using PowerToys fancy zones so that I can snap to the part that's being captured. But when I go full screen, it doesn't really work. But we've got this visual up here that's a date slicer, and so I was thinking, we'll just use that. But no, what we're saying is that we want to do a filter on all pages where the year is greater than 2013, apply. And if we're going to do a filter like that, that's sort of integral to the report, we want to, I pressed the wrong button. We are going to want to sort of lock it in and keep the end user from fiddling with it, because we've decided that it's never worthwhile. Theo, there's a few of the challenges from more recent weeks have looked more advanced, they're definitely building in difficulty over time. The first one was just like get some data and make a chart, and now we're up into more advanced as we get into weeks 12, 13, 14, and 11, we're getting into more advanced stuff. And I imagine by the time we get to week 40 and 50, things are going to get much harder, which is part of why I decided to do this, where we'll just like power through as many of them as we can and see what interesting stuff comes up along the way, rather than saying, hey, let's do one and it'll be great content for Powers and I's audience, which is, focused on people that are already professionally working with Power BI. Which is not to say that if you're here and you're a beginner and I'm going too fast, like, please say something and we'll talk about it. But in general, we plan content for folks that mostly know what's going on. Perhaps even more than we do. In any event, let's get started on this one. So we want to create a matrix that shows intake and outcomes by animal types. Okay, so we've got our two facts, which are intakes and outcomes. And then we want to have animal type. And let's just see what this shows us. So that doesn't show anything. So we probably need... and we need animals. That's going to be probably name. Let's see, what are the values for name? No, that's the animal's name, not the... Oh, I see. We've got... No, that's right. So, why am I not seeing any data? That doesn't feel right to me. Yeah, those are our types. Okay. Oh, doorbell. I think that means my pizza's here. So I will be right back. Okay, success. Oh, oops. And Megan has pointed out that when the first time I made the filter, I did greater than 2013, and then when I cleared it, I did less than. Okay. So now what we're going to do is it wants us to put the values on columns, which we can do, or on rows, which we can do here. So we've got this. Okay. And then we've got some charts. some bar charts, outcomes by type and outcomes by sex upon outcome. Interesting. So I don't think we're going to be doing small multiples. So let's bring this up. When I first see this, where we have two charts that have the same metric, the first thing I think is that a use for small multiples? But in this case, where we have different axes, it is not. So, you know, there are ways you could hack it to show it was small multiples, but it would be a challenge. And I don't even know, does this visual even support small multiples yet? Or is it? I don't remember. Maybe I just don't have it on right now. Okay, so we've got this. That looks like what they're looking for the bottom chart. And by they, I mean Megan, who is here. But, yes, and so then this one is outcome type. Go. That is our that. And then we also want a matrix. Well, not a matrix, a horizontal bar chart. Which could be a matrix. We'll get into that in a second. So here we want to look at breed, I think. Access breed. And we want to look at just the number of outcomes. Does that look right? Yes. I'm just gonna, I don't think you'll be able to see this. Yep. That's what we have. Now this is getting cut off in a way I don't like. And so I think we could fix that by using this slider here, the maximum size, to increase the amount of space afforded to the label. So I think technically what this is doing is saying the data label can only be X% of the available area for the chart. And so here it can be then up half the width of the chart. And looking at how things are looking, I think we want to proportions more like this. And then we've got a slicer up here that's on years. And we used, God, I'm trying to remember where the setting is. Selection controls somewhere in here. Can never remember where. There is a setting to turn it into like a button type slicer. I can never remember where it is. In this, it's always weird to me that this here is the like slicer style is in this little slicer header dropdown instead of somewhere in the slicer object. It's under general and orientation. I mean, I guess that makes sense, but also it doesn't make sense. And then it's like something like this. Great. We'll do another PowerPoint background and get some nice proportions in there. Yeah, I can see everybody remembers but me. That's good. So we've got all of our elements. Let's look back at the requirements and see what else there is to see. Oh, I got a notification that my cube has, or not my cube, my partner's cube has successfully refreshed. Congratulations. Yeah. Well, and not just 2 places, it's really like 3 or 4 places because you've got this drop down here. Sorry, GIS. You've got selection controls, which is where I was expecting it to be because this is we're selecting the type of selection control we want. And then we've got general, which, I normally only expect to have positionings. Yeah. So, obviously this format pane is the area that, I don't know if it's the area, but it's an area that could use lots and lots of work. Maybe multiple complete redesigns. But let's not give the desktop team any work that's not source control. So I don't want to hear anybody asking for new features. Anyway, let's go. So we've got our column chart. We've got another column chart. We've got our bar chart. Interactions between all visuals. We haven't set that. Use the class. Okay, and then these are analysis and design questions. So let's come back here and let's make a new PowerPoint because that's what we do. And this time, let's not start from scratch. Let's do this. This is the real way to make a good PowerPoint. You go to Chris Hamill's blog, come in, and you look at background gallery, and you find a design that you like. Oh, hey, look, I could have just used this background that Chris made. See? We could have saved so much time on our last one if we just come right here. That's why I say this is where you go to design reports. You don't start in PowerPoint on your own. So I recently used this one for reports, so we're not going to look at that one. No. Let's start here, I think. So, great. Okay. And let's look at our design. We're going to take and delete these. And our little matrix is going to go really nicely in here. And then we want to work on this shape size. So right now this is 4.88, and we want to divide that in half, 2.44, and then we want to subtract a boundary. So let's measure what our standard boundary is. Hey, Will, you just missed us talking about how easy it is to use the format pane and find all the settings. Yeah. Okay, so 0.2. So we want to take another 0.2 off of this, and then we can create this object. Ooh. Why did that not line up? And so this was... Oh, well, as always, I say, yes, these are important, but I don't want to hear about it until we have source control. Or I'm never going to ask for anything other than source control. That's what I have told myself. So, yes. Okay, so why are these not lined up the way that I thought they would be? So this is 4.88. And if I make it 2.44, oh, because I'm making two of them, so I need to divide the space in half as well. And so now we have a nice even split between those two. And now this one, we're just going to make a single space. Great. So now we've got a nice design. Yes, let's see. So honestly, I think we're done. See, this is why rather than make our own PowerPoint, we just, it's much better to steal them from Chris. Yeah, so let's make a new folder. Week 6. This, and then we'll export this slide, PowerPoint or PNG. Again, it's doing the thing where I don't know if like my OneDrive application crashed, but it's not quite saving to the right thing. Yeah, aligning visuals to the containers is really tricky. I agree. And that's one downside of application switching to do your backgrounds. But, you know, PowerPoint for shapes is PowerPoint, not Power BI. So sometimes it's just easier. So now let's do page background and default 100% transparency. That's always fun. And now let's see about getting our object place. See if we still like. Oh, before we do that. Can I? Nope, I can't multi-select different visual types and edit shared properties like that. Okay, so now we've got this guy here. Here. These chart shapes may be too small. We may need to change. Yeah, because this is a 50-50 split. We don't really want a 50-50. So now we're starting to get closer to what we want here. So one thing that I want to consider, and so now that we have this bigger shape, are these charts too small on the left? That's question number one. Now that we have this bigger frame, we don't need it all the way cranked up. Is this better as a matrix? And by that I mean, let's see what we can do with a matrix. So let's actually, we're going to need a title element if we do this, and then our measure is called outcomes. And what we're going to basically do is do conditional formatting to do data bars. But what we're going to discover is that you can't actually do that without duplicating the measure. So let's do a new measure. Outcomes bar equals outcomes. So now we can, because we should always have data labels. And so we do not want, and it doesn't move the labels around well enough for me to want to have the bar and the label in the same cell of the matrix. So I like doing it this way here, and let's change the color. Let's see, where are, pick a theme that yellow in it. Yeah, let's just go back to the default theme. We're going to need to do some color picking, I think, is really what it comes down to. So this shape, I always want to hit Control-1 to get shape formats, because that's what it, or object properties, because that's what it is in Excel. But one, I have zoom in on, and two, I don't think it's always Control-1. I think that's a legacy thing. So now here, let's this color be this. Okay, great. And still need to this. Okay. So now I sort of like this better than this. I don't know. Others feel the same way. Obviously, we have a ways to go on the formatting. But we need to turn off. Well, we didn't get a total bar. Yeah, so Alex, I have a color picker in my browser, but I don't have one in just for the application. You know what? It's fine. We want to be there. And then we're going to need to do something with our column headers. We'll have to come back to that. I think it's time for a slice of pizza while I think about what the next pieces are. Well, that didn't work very well. I'm just gonna mute here so you guys don't have to hear me eat. Yeah, okay. So let's continue doing color stuff. So I don't know if I want to reuse this color in our other bars. We shall see. Data colors. More colors. This thing is so much nicer than what we used to have. Yeah. I do want to use that color. And so we'll use the format painter. Yes, this is a great kind of pizza. It's not the only kind of pizza, but it is a great kind of pizza. Again, we're going to turn on data labels. We're going to turn off the y-axis. And because our values are under 10,000, we're just going to, well, yeah, that's clear. And that's the most that we have. Okay. I think I want my y-axis label on either. Where is the format setting? How many scroll bars do we have here, guys? I don't know about that. Okay. Yeah, because it's outcomes on the title, I don't think we need to label the axis there. In fact, honestly, I don't even think we need the label down here. Labels are very good when you have a complicated visual. But I don't think labels are as good when you're repeating the label. So yeah, there's, I'm sure you've seen Jeff on Twitter. He's got some very complicated stuff you can do with calculation groups to have dynamic axis labels that sort of go. In this case, because our total value is under 10,000, I just don't think it helps at all. I think we're better off turning off auto entirely, because even if we added all of this together, it still would be enough to get everything to work. Okay, so now let's get these charts. Yeah, that's good. Okay, let's set our height. Height. Go. This way our bars are, well, the bars are not close to being scaled together. In this case, I would be very tempted to lock the y-axis to the same range, but that's not something we can do in Power BI. If we had if we wanted to do small multiples and we could create a custom dual axis, we could potentially have all of these values on one axis and then do a custom measure. So this was like a small multiple, but the two different graphs had different axes. But we're not going to do that because that is going to take a bunch of time. Plus, as we talked about before, we don't really have full Power Query access or control. So here, let's work on making things a little bit more. I wish there was some defaults, consistent column widths or something. But this is fine. Now what we really need to do is so I love the new color picker, but I no longer know how to set it to alpha. I bet there's a hex code for alpha. Because before there was a no fill. But yeah. So yeah, so we want this. I want no background color, actually. Is that a hex code, hex color, alpha channel? Yeah. Ah, I see. So they add an extra character. Well, that's not going to work here. Well, is there any way now to set to no fill? That is what it's set to, and it's white, not no fill. Yeah, it doesn't. It doesn't. Okay, well, we're not going to do that. So instead, back to PowerPoint to do some color picking, because if we can't do no fill, then we just have to match the fill of our object. So, there we go. So then, no, we don't want the font colors to be like that. We just want the background to be like that. And, row headers. Probably use some color, but for now, I just want to have it be part of the object. Honestly, that's pretty good. Maybe we don't need values. Can we center the values? No, we usually don't do that. Honestly, I think. Oh, yeah, you're right. The different style options. None. That's okay. We then do this, and then. So this is true transparent, so if we. Well, yeah. Selection pane. So if we did this, yeah. So now we actually have transparency. That will be potentially helpful here. Because, well, we'll come back to that in a second. Let's finish with this one. So I think we need to make the header text a little darker. Okay, so now I'd like to make these axes labels bigger, but to do that, I feel like we need to come back here, and I guess we can do this width here. Let's make this like 5.25. We need a reference point on our right alignment, so 2.5, okay. Here. There we go. And then we can make this 6 point, what did we say, like we took off 2.5, so like 6.25, no, 6.75, well, not that. Yeah, there we go, that's getting close. Okay, and then we can keep going until we hit a nice alignment. Yeah. Yeah, I've done that before too. But so let's see if we can do this. So we have 2 just this one. Okay. Page background. Bam. No, again. God, this is really annoying. The PowerPoint keeps defaulting to like the web version of the folder, which is fine, but like somehow my OneDrive isn't syncing back and forth like we would expect it to. So it's not always showing up because in PowerPoint it's pointing to the local version of the folder. Okay, so now the bar will still be plenty long. It's not as great as I was hoping, but is this better? I don't think this is better. I think, well, maybe it is. Maybe it is. Well, whatever. This is what we're doing. Axis. Is it? Oh, it's not getting any bigger because it just thinks that that's as big as it really wants to go. Okay. Well, let's go back to the directions if I can. Yeah. See here. Okay, so we pretty much done everything. Oh, except put a title on. And the fun little icons. Oh, and then we've got these things. These are cool. I think those are probably future week things. So yeah. Okay. Let's at least put a title in. And let's see. I feel like I should be getting some like the smart narrative box to pop up. I was thinking about trying to fiddle with that, but oh, because that's why we weren't seeing small multiples either. Because when I downloaded Megan's PBIX, it defaulted to having everything off. But I always keep everything on, except for I should probably not even bother with the maps because I never use maps. But that's why we weren't seeing the smart narrative. But that's fine. So what was this? No. This is going to have to be 22 would be perfect, but can't do that, so we'll just have that. We actually want this to line up with these, but the smart guides aren't going to do that for us. And center right object. Turn off the back. Ooh, that's horrible. I guess this is now an object too. So, shadow border radius. Not that much. Color. Here. Background. Now, just try and dial in. It's not going to look quite right unless we go into PowerPoint. Another object. Divide the space in half. Divide the space in thirds. I think that's about right. Okay. Then let's do that. Great. 6. Yes. This one. Okay. Background. Okay. Now we've got our page object. Ugh. You'd think after complaining about this 10 times in a row, I would actually remember that it's doing it, but I don't. Gotta save a second time. Yes. This one. Okay. Very nice. Center. Okay. Nope. Let's just hand align it. There we go. That's what we want. Okay. So we've done 2 weeks and 90 minutes. Yeah, we're not making the best time, but that's fine. Okay, so the last thing we need to do is use the cross-function filtering functionality to find out how many parakeets were adopted in 2020. Okay, so 2020, we want to look at birds. Oh, you know what? We did skip a step. Edit interactions. So what we want to do, edit interactions, is make sure everything is set to filter instead of highlight. So now 2020, great. Birds, great. And then we have adoptions. Oh, but then when I clicked that, it cleared some of my other stuff. Okay, so then we have adoptions are 17. Edit, interact, filter, and filter. There we go. So we have 17. Great. That concludes this. So let's save it to our folder and move on to week 7. And let me pull up week 7. And one of David's challenges with conditional formatting. Very cool. Okay, I'm gonna have another slice of pizza. So Megan, you're saying I got it wrong. Well, parakeets. I see. Because this is just birds. We haven't actually filtered to parakeets yet. And so now we have 9 parakeets that were adopted. Okay, great. This is why I'm not actually an analyst. I don't actually tell people what the numbers are. I just analyze them. Or I just create the tools through which people can look at the numbers. But they don't actually trust me to tell them what the numbers are. Okay. So back to this one. This is a much more complicated. I think we're starting to get into the intermediate challenges, I think. I'm going to have to do some power query, create a visual, do some formatting. Okay. Datasets from data.world. Great, so we'll start with a blank Power BI. Okay, so let's get data. Online services, data.world. Menu. So let's come back here. This is those that haven't used the data.world connector. Data.world URLs are structured such that this is the dataset owner and this is the dataset, which are the required parameters. So we can put them in and connect. And then we have to sign in. Because it's not going to remember my username. That's frustrating. Okay, well, let me remember what I did. That's probably it. And give it one more try and then I'll use my password manager to look it up. Nope. Passwords. Because I'm streaming it, does the password manager app know that there's some sort of screen share going and it won't share? Obviously, I'm not doing it on the screen that we're looking at. But oh, that's the correct password. Oh man. Hooray! Okay, we figured it out. Oh, great. Let's see what we have. We have pivoted data. Okay, so let's start by form transpose. feel like, oh, before we transpose, we want to headers as first row, and now transpose. No, I'm crazy. This is, we want to unpivot column. Here we go. So that's a total row. I'm not sure what aggregation function it is, so Lake, actually, let's do it in here. Lake ice coverage. Okay, let's come back to the web browser we were in. Here. Okay. So let's read about the data set. I think these are percents. I think so. Okay. If they're percents, then that informs what measure we're going to use. And we probably can't get rid of all lakes because we don't have the necessary information to aggregate across the lakes to do all lakes, because it's probably by area, and so it's not just the average of these percents, it's the sum of the numerators and the denominators, which are unequal. So we're going to need to keep the all lakes. That probably means we're going to need to handle it special. Okay, so now let's clean this up. So let's values. Let's get this underscore replaced with a space. Yeah. Let's do format, capitalize each word. This whole number, this percentage, but before we do that, let's divide by 100. Okay, that's good. I think that's really all we can do to the data set now. I guess we need to fix this. So in a previous, when I did week 2 or week 1, with a little bit of help from Powers, I used some M to capitalize and properly format all the column headers for all the columns and tables in the report all at once, but we just have one column, so we don't need to do that here. Okay, so now the next step, one other thing we need to do, which is rename this table. Ice coverage. Okay, so now we're gonna do year lake. So lake on columns, year on rows. Okay. What did he do? He just filtered out all lakes, but I don't want to do that. I want to be a little fancier. So even though we formatted this as a percent in Power Query, of course, it didn't automatically cover through. So we need to turn off our subtotals. I always go into I always want to go into grand totals to turn off totals and matrices, but it's in subtotals. So there's one more thing we need to do, which is that we need to set a sort order. Do we just do them alphabetically? we won't. We'll put that off till the end. Okay, so we've got the matrix. Okay, so the next step is remote row and column totals. So we've done the major formatting, except the vertical grid. The grid is on. So now we've got this layout. So let's now look at the next section. So now it does explicitly tells us to filter out all lakes. I think having the total is nice, but we'll keep following the directions for now. Set a conditional formatting rules. Okay, so here we've got this. So values, no, we need to come in from. There's multiple ways to get to conditional formatting. Background color. I'm pretty sure that it tells us that we need to create rules, but it's pretty damn close to what the default is. Okay, so here we need to go 0 to 0.2499. Except, yeah. No, it says to use explicitly use 2499, but I think we need to do it this way. Otherwise, we will have holes in our rules. 0.5, 0.5, and this is less than, so I think that is correct. 7.5. It says 5 different colors, but this is 1, 2, 3. 1 and then 1 here, and then we'll just call that 2. So now basically that, yeah, maybe we'll even do a little more. Oh, that's the 5th color. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There we go. So because I typed these all in decimal form. I need to keep them in decimal form. Okay. So now we need to use the contracts checker to build rules, match here. So advanced rules. 0.25. Yep, that's the next step, Theo. We are explicitly told that we must do that. One 0.25. So one thing that is nice about most software these days is you can tab through every object, but I wish I could hold down a mode where I could only tab through the data entry fields instead of going through everything. So now we've got this, and basically what we want to do is I want to have black text, except sometimes I want to have white text. And just gonna guess that is clearly, oh, because I didn't set these all. Okay. I mean, let's test this one. So let's see. Can I? Nope. Okay, so. Nope, I can't. Can't paste into that box. That's too bad. Okay. Okay, so background, foreground, and what's our target here? This is passes. So is this telling us that it fails? I think this fails. Okay, so that combination fails. Let's change this here. Okay, so it passes almost all of the tests. But it doesn't pass all of them. So it doesn't feel like it's actually showing me all of the colors. Let's try a smaller screen snipping. Why is that not? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, we know this is our background. And this is our foreground. So that passes. Great. So then our next color is this one. But I don't think that's a primary. I think this is the primary one. So that doesn't pass. And this is black, right? So neither of them, neither white nor black is passing on this combination, but I think white is better. Okay. So then let's look at this background. No, this is the background color. So basically, Christian, we've been working on the week 7 challenge, which is to make this. And what it tells us to do once we have the background conditional formatting is that we're supposed to design foreground font color rules so that every combination passes the contrast checker. And I guess I should bring the contrast checker onto the main screen. I've been using it off screen. So we've got these combinations of fonts and of font colors and background colors, and we're trying to see if they pass. So like this passes, great. Then we've got this, and it doesn't pass. So I think we just can't use this color. I think we need to come back in here and look at our color scale. And see if we can do something a little darker. You can never tell if the color actually changed. Okay, that doesn't feel like it changed. I don't like that. That's better. So gradients of blue to green. Yeah, it's not a bad idea. But take the image. No, you. I don't like. I like the white to black scale for this because it really does mimic sort of the what people's experiences are. Okay, so background is this, the foreground is white. That passes. What if this is the background? I mean, honestly, I know it says it fails, but that's pretty good. And then on this one, we're using black. Okay, that passes. And then when we keep bringing our grayscale, our backgrounds down, I'm pretty happy with where we are. We're still technically failing at this combination, but I think that's pretty damn good. I'm gonna stick with it. So we do have opposites, but it's this box right here that we're still failing our contrast checker, even though we have done opposites. It's just not quite as contrasting as the checker likes, but I think we're good. So let's just move ahead from here. Okay, so add a star next to any value where the maximum ice coverage is. Yeah, so the ratio is 5.2. So I think we're good. And yeah. That's our lowest. That's our lowest one, so I think we're just fine. Okay. So the next thing it wants is icons, little stars. So let's turn this on. Ooh, that's too much. Value is greater than equal to 100%. And I guess we can leave these boxes blank. And then this star. I think we want this star. Why won't it let me hit OK? Only. Do I need to put a 2 in here? 200. Oh, it doesn't like greater than or equal. I think this is why. Yeah. So now we'll do it. Except it didn't do it because of. There we go. Mutually exclusive rules. Okay, so now we've got that. Okay, so now it doesn't explicitly tell us what charts to make. We could copy. What? Yeah, Christian, I had no time either, so we're just doing as many as we can in one sitting. So it's it's been 2 hours, and we're on the third challenge. And we've got, I don't know, 10 more we could do. So we're not going to get through all of them, but we're going to do as many as we can. So basically, the rest, if we were to replicate what David did, basically, it's going to be something. This background color here, no, here, font color, white, $28. Come on, are you serious? Well, Susan, if we do a background, we'll design our own. That's been a fun part of this challenge so far. But I think on this challenge, we're going to skip it because we've already done that a couple times. So, yeah, I want to make the fonts bigger. I always feel like the fonts are too small. That feels better. Okay. And then he did. I think what David did was average by year. This. And then he used analytics. Add not an average line. A trend line. This. It's nice. I think that off. See, this is where now it's like, okay, well, we can't, the labels aren't good, so we do want the axis on, but I don't like, I feel like we need to make the grid lines firmer. Maybe we can go. Oh. I think that's better. Now that we've got that. So continuing on with our, let's just copy David as opposed to coming up with our own, which we probably won't stay there. We had lake instead of year, and we use this. Okay, and basically did that. Like this. So, but for this visual, so now having just done that, we use this average of ice coverages. It's actually more appropriate for this visual to be filtered to all lakes instead, because as we talked about when we first started, the average of all the lakes is not the same as the average for, like, is not averaging the values for each individual lake, because some lakes are bigger than other lakes. So if instead we filter this one to just all lakes, you can see the value changes a little bit. And so since we have data on that better average, we should use that. And so now we've got a little bit better visual. I can see just by comparing with what David shared that our numbers are a little different. So I'm feeling pretty good about that change. And there's really, let's go back to the directions. So we've got some analytical questions to look at. We've got a little bit of axis cutoff, so let's do this first. So on our y-axis, the auto title. So actually, rather than do this, let's come down here and rename. Let's do it this way. And then down here, this is not an average. I mean, the source data is an average, but we're no longer aggregating the source data by average. Yeah, we are, across years. But let's do this. And here, this averaging this way is appropriate because we're comparing the same sort of scale from year to year. If this was like a business dimension and you like had sales by lake region in the Midwest, it wouldn't necessarily be accurate to average across years, because you might have the total sales in Erie grow faster than in Superior, and so you would have different numerators and denominators, and so you would again want to do the sum of the numerators and the denominators first. But here, where our lake's geographic size is not changing from year to year, at least not much, averaging the averages over time is not wrong. You won't get a different number, but it's not really the best way. But we don't have the source data for sort of cubic feet covered versus, or square meters covered versus square meters of normal area. And so there we are. So let's look at this. Which lake has frozen over the most? So one way we could do this is we could sort this by ice coverage, and we can see here that Erie has frozen over completely 3 times and nothing else. So we've answered that question. Is ice coverage trending upward over time? We can see from our trend line that it's not, although, considerable noise around that. So yeah, ice coverage is trending down. I think we have completed the week. 7 challenge. So let's go ahead and save this to a new folder. 7. Great. Okay, we're going to take another quick break here. I'm going to go to the bathroom, and then we will do week 8. Okay, I'm back, and have a good night all that had to hop off, and let's move on to week 8. So let's open up our directions window. See, we're going back to the data set from earlier weeks. So create a report that allows users to toggle between metrics. So we had interesting things. Use the switch function, or let's see, we get yes. We can also talk about using calculation groups instead. So let's start by opening up our data set from week 2. And let's get started there. A minute now. There we go. Okay. So what we want to do is be able to switch between measures, and I think he was specific about the measures. Total revenue, total expenses, total profits. So there's a couple ways we can do this. And just to mix things up, we're going to start working here. Tabular editor. In fact, for those of you that haven't seen it yet, it's not the same data set. Data set. Similar to the same data. Okay, great. Well, then let's download that data set. And let's make a new data set. That's great. More fun things to do. So, another data.world. It's going to close a few things. This one, we're done with this one. So, let's get data from... Yeah, Christian, I am in the sort of private beta test group for Tabular Editor 3. It's very fun. It's got some nice features. For my day-to-day job, where I might consider paying for it, for what I do, it doesn't bring anything particularly valuable to the table. If I was a developer building a tabular model from scratch, it'd be a different story. I probably would want to have funding for Tabular Editor 3 as part of the sort of required tools. But we use Tabular Editor 2 extensively. Our model is primarily developed in Power BI, though, so we don't need as many of the features. Like Tabular Editor 3 brings relationship view. That's nice, but no, I have no idea what the price point is. Yeah. Okay, so we've got our data. But yeah, for our team, like really all it brings to the table for us is IntelliSense and Tabular Editor. And that's great, but not enough to train the team on a new workflow and pay money for a new tool. If we were setting up a new project, that would be different. And if the developers were coming to me saying they wanted to use it, that would also be a big deal. But the developers are not asking for the tool, and my job as a PM, I mostly I use Tabular Editor 2 a lot just to see if what is in production, like which features are actually in production, and to sort of demo and check things, but I don't actually do any development. Okay, so we're going to need to create a data set. There's not a lot of guidance, which is fine. So first thing we want to do, do I still have open my week 2 data set? No, let me reopen that. We're going to steal some stuff from the week 2 data set because, come on. We've got all of these column headers, which are not nice. They've got they're not capitalized and they're missing stuff. And I don't want to manually rename them. So when we did week 2, we got some help from Powers, and we did this renamed columns. Let me see if I can find it. Where we did a bunch of transformations. Yeah, here we go. We reformatted our column names, and yeah. So yeah, let's see. So this is what we want. We want to bring this in over here to our new code. So let's add a new function. This. And this is going to navigation. Yeah. Oh, because it's not actually called navigation. It's just the UI is trying to make things simpler for us. Okay. Okay, so what do we do here? Yeah. So why is finance fact not the input? Well, let's just back out what we did. Okay. Well, let's see. What other steps do we need to do? Okay, well let's do some column types, and then we can come back and it'll be a little bit more reasonable. So these are all fixed decimal numbers. They're probably actually integers, but whatever. That's close enough for now. Yep. Okay. So now, see if we can. Equals here. And we need a comma here. Okay. Oh. Yeah. So that's good. So now I just need to take these two. Well, these ones, and I do need to rename them a little more because there's no function for acronym detection. Oh, whoops. That's not what we want. But the way it handled all of these summarized columns, it's very nice. Okay. So now we've got this. And here. Cool. Oops. Stem. I think this is going to be plural because the others are plural in school dam and finance fact. I don't know. Yeah. Okay, so the next thing we need to do, well, we need to rename these columns. BS column. Abbreviation. D School. Okay, so now there's one more thing we need to do. This has got a nice integer key. This doesn't. Normally it's not a big deal, but I like to do this. So we're going to add an index column from 1, because I think surrogate keys should be 1 indexed. I don't know why I think that, but I do. We're going to merge queries. Merge these two. Okay. And expand our index. Actually, let's not call it index. Let's call it ID. And then here, conference ID. Okay, great. So now we've got our thing, and then let's come in and choose columns. We no longer need conference column. Okay. Let's also duplicate this query, and let's choose columns. All we need is subdivision. And does this have any unique? Nope, never mind. Delete this. Let's remove the subdivision column because it does not have, it only has 1 unique values. So it's not interesting. So now we have our data ready to load. Hit close and apply. And there we go. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so now let's go into Tabular Editor and keep working on this stuff. Let's use Tabular Editor 3 as we were talking about it. And okay. So I don't think I've configured best practices analyzer in here. Oh, here it is. Yes, I have. So let's go ahead and go through these best practice rules. Do not summarize. So let's apply the fix. Hide foreign keys. Apply the fix. Mark primary keys. Apply the fix. We're going to need a date table. Come back to that. Objects with no descriptions. Let's ignore that because we're not going to do descriptions today. I don't know. Partitions are not important today. Should have a date table. Okay, great. So now we've seen our best practices. Let's come back to our tower and let's come in here. Okay, so create measure. Let's see. Something's hung up on us. That's weird. It froze. Well, while we're doing that, let's do something else from week 2. Is to copy in our date table, which we got a nice script for. Normally, I'd say you should have a date table available to you, or there should be a date table for your organization, and this should be on a database. Not be a thing where you build it yourself, where you have to use a script on a regular basis. But this is not that. No. function? Is that what it's looking for? No, it's okay. Date. Go. We've got our date table. And close and apply. You know, I do have a beer that I should grab. That's a good point. So this is just year, but we still need a full date table to make time intelligence work. So no dates anywhere else. So here, we want to transform this. Equals date. Year, comma. I think, yeah, that sounds right. Nope, it's not what it's looking for with the date function. So now we're gonna have to go look. Why is this not? Oh, because it thinks date's a custom function. Okay. So let's date dot from. That's what we're looking for. Maybe there now. Three arguments were passed to a function. Specs between 1 and 2. So let's now look up at the Power Query reference. What is correct format? That's the one that so date.from wants what about we just do this syntax? Yeah. There we go. That's what I was looking for. It doesn't come out. Didn't come up with an IntelliSense though. Yeah. So why doesn't it like this? Alex. That I don't understand. Value of year? That seems more DAX-like. Oh, lower. God, what is up with these case-sensitive programming languages? I don't like it. Okay, so now, why is it saying that there's errors? Okay, well, whatever. Values look right to me. So now we've got our date. This can be type date. Our date table. No. And now we be frozen. And we can't save back. We're gonna have to redo what we did before because things. Okay, so then if we come back to our fact table, we no longer need year column. And No, I definitely did a column reference, and I pulled it from IntelliSense. So, okay, so now we have to switch to this view because we can't mark as date table. Date, okay, great. Here. Auto date time, that off. Okay, so now let's come back to tabular editor. Relaunch. And let's come back to our best practices analyzer. Let's script out this rule. Let's script out this rule. Script this rule. Okay, yeah, we'll come back to that. I'm pretty sure we've got the objects we need. We're going to ignore this one. We're going to ignore this one because I don't feel like making a date key. We're going to ignore this rule. We don't have access to the data source. This rule can actually save quite a bit. I applied this to my model the other day and we saved like 10% off the model, which was like 5 gigabytes. So definitely recommend using that rule. I don't care what the partition names are. Okay, so format strings and sort orders. So let's save. So now I can come back in here, see things are hidden. We don't want this hidden. We're not using date key today. So, yep. So let's do our sort orders. We've got month, sort by column should be month number. Here, this should be month number. Weekday should be day in week. Okay, let's default to this for a format string. I do multiples, I can't. Yeah, go. I think that is all the formatting that we need. So let's do this and relaunch. And let's see what's next. Okay, so now our best practices rules are looking really nice. Because we're going to ignore this one. This is year month is not month. This is string. It's an integer. Oh, this should. Okay. Well, that's something for us to fix in Power Query. But anyways, this one, we don't need a sort order because it will sort correctly. We did this. Yeah, sure. And do that. Okay. So now what we need to do is create measures. Measure name here is going to be expenses equals the sum of total expenses. Okay. Format string, type, currency, decimals, 0. Okay. Copy, let's paste. Profits. Sum of profits. And this one is going to be revenue equals the sum of total revenue. What is the error message here? Does it not? Oh, it does the equal sign for us. Here, we don't have to type it. Okay, so then this is not called, this is reported. Yeah, we should change the name there, but that's fine. So then call this, we think we need total profit. Okay. Our measures will be singular. That is how we're going to do. What is up with the intelligence on this guy? Really don't understand why it wouldn't. So be it. Okay, measures are singular. Total revenue. This is I understand why it won't. Okay. First back. There we go. So now we've got our measures. Currency. I can't bulk format. That's too bad. So then we can make invisible, save. So now we've created our basic model. So now we can come back to the challenges here. So what we need to do is create a measure table that lets you, create a measure that lets you toggle between these and a measure table. So there's two ways we can do this. One, and I always use enter data, but you could also do a DAX measures. And we had a nice long discussion on this on Twitter a couple days ago. So we've got total profit, total revenue, and what's the third one that it wants? Total expenses. And we're doing singular, and that's why this is weird. That's right. And one. Great. So now we've got this, and we can load. Save this. So then we can make a new measure. Switcher that equals switch selected value of measure list measures, comma, total profit So we can do this. This blank, and oh, right, we need to close this function. So we can do this, and this will work fine. But there's another approach that I think we should also consider. For that, let's go back into Tabular Editor 3 and take a look at that. And that's to use a calculation group. And most folks think calculation groups are usually a little faster. Yeah. So we can do this. Switcher. And so we can do create an item for each of our measures. So profit, and so normally with a calculation group, you might say, like, I want to calculate selected measure, comma, some time intelligence pattern. But you can also just like give them measures. And so we could create a calculation group that's like this. And I think we need, when you create a calculation group, you have to do a process recalc to make it work. But we now have this measure switcher, and no matter what measure you put in, it's always going to override, with the values. And so we don't even really need like a dummy measure, although it's usually better if we come back up here to say if is selected measure. So first, let's create a new measure, which is called, so this would basically be measure switcher 2. And then in here, we'd say 2. And up here, this would just be blank. So if you brought this in normally, it wouldn't do anything. And then this would say, if you use the dummy measure, then you return total expense. And that's it. And we can and we can sort of extend that pattern to our exactly what we've broken about Tabular Editor, but I think if we try to save, should all work. We can extend that pattern here. Now we need to refresh data, details, typo here, back. Okay, so what is selected measure? Yeah. So now if we bring in measure switcher 2, it should work, but it doesn't because let's go to the example text. Search. Let's see here. So what is this supposed to look like? I feel like we did this correctly. Let's bail out and relaunch Tabular Editor. See if we can make that work better. So anyway, calculation groups are complicated, but they can be more flexible. So did it just crash? Maybe we broke it. Okay, let's try using Tabular Editor 2. I think we may have found a bug in Tabular Editor 3. That's what I think. Okay. So, invalid argument. It's the correct name, right? We can drag it in. Check. And, I feel like we're just going in circles here, but I really don't know. Given that we hit that bug in Tabular Editor 3, I'm not sure I trust it now. Oh. Yeah, now we don't have any errors. It works. Great. So now we just need to look at our format strings. So why isn't it passing through the format string from the new measure? Well, anyway, they're all going to be the same. So let's just paste it in, use it. Okay. Oh, right. So in Tabular Editor, on a measure, the format string doesn't need to be, you just put the format string in. But for a calculation item, I remember I found this the other day, it needs to be quoted as a string. And then then it will work. And now we have our correct formatting. So now we have our nice little measure switcher. And so I'm going to rename this V1. And I'm going to rename this, and hopefully it won't break the calc group. Nope, the calc group dynamically updates. That's good. So now we need to have this, and we remember now that it's here. Now we have our nice little measure selection box. And now we can go back to designing our report. And let's go ahead and copy Spencer's design. So Spencer was using a like a mobile design. So it's almost like like this type size. So let's say 720 by over here. Yeah, let's make a square report. Sure, that'll be a different experience. 720 by 720. Okay. Yep, so that's good. So then, in fact, yeah. So what does it say for the challenge requirements? Formatting is totally up to you. That's what it says. So, if we get some water. And let's make this do a little matrix, and let's do a multi-row card. And so here, so we're going to want to do some time intelligence. That'll be fun. So measure switcher by conference. That. Okay. Here. Bring in date. Year. And here. Fed. And so there's one other thing that we want to do. We may want to have other measures be able to pass through. So here, if the selected measure, otherwise we want to just return select. Oh, this is no longer in sync. So let's close these. Yeah, so, yes. Okay, so basically we want it to work on other measures. We just don't want, like right now, when you have this filter, no other measures can be used at all. And what we want to do instead is just have it have no effect when you select other measures. So what we need to do is just add a null condition, not blank, but of just pass through the measure that you put in. So back. So now if we were to bring in another measure, especially one that's out of the scope of our swisher, it would still work. So that's nice. Okay. Let's see if this works. I think maybe this will work. I'm using the wrong visual. Again, no, it doesn't work. Okay, so fortunately, back in here. This is a downside of the calculation group approach, is that if we wanted to add another measure, we have to add it to the list of approved measures to be switched. Fortunately, this function takes multiple parameters, but yeah, so now we have this bar that we can continue to format as a data bar, show bar only. Great, so now we can have a nice little bar chart. It works here. This way, okay. So we're starting to get all the pieces. Of this together. Still need to do time intelligence. So let's do that. Let me pull up here and let's start copying. So now we're going to make a new calculation group. Yeah. So prior year, prior half. Nope, our data is yearly, so there's no sense in doing anything other than do. So year over year. Sorry, the year over year value. Year over year percent. And then prior year over year. And prior year percent. I think those are really the only ones we can do in a yearly data set. So let's get trucking on that. So this is prior year. Selected measure, same period last year. I have these in another model and I'm just copy pasting them because I don't want to get into deriving time intelligence patterns. Here you can always get those from Marco and Alberta's stuff. So this is where we'll start editing because I don't have these on hand. So basically, we can use same period last year. Basically, this goes in here. And so now instead, we can do a date. I think it's date add. Yeah. Yep. State add. So now we want to do this, comma. Is that right? Yeah, it's backward. So we want to move it back 2 years. And that should work for go. Somehow drag this to the top instead of. There we go. Okay, so now we have our time intelligence. So now, oh, we're missing one more. Oh, yeah. I believe it's just called date in this model. The other model has a much more complicated date table. Oh. That's better. And there we go. So now got time intelligence. Oh, and the other thing I was going to add is that we were missing one item from our calculation group, which is there should always be a pass-through that just does selected measure, because oftentimes you'll want to do that as a comparison, and that should always be the first item. And then these two, so now we need to do format strings. So this will be fine for absolute ones. Okay, and then for these, we need a format string for percents. And for some reason, I mean, whatever, it's not super important, but there's an auto format string generator on measures, but not for calculation groups. So copy paste, because this format string expressions are one of the many syntaxes that I just refuse to learn to type. So now, if we hit refresh now we have nice things, but maybe we want to include, if that's right, maybe we want to include a decimal point. Percent format strings. So Yeah. That's better. Okay, so now here, let's hide base value. And let's hide these. These are sometimes silly, but that is here. Let's include the base value. So now it's a matter of designing this. I think at this point we have all of the functionality that Spencer has in his example. What do folks want me to do? Do we want to do another background and do a design? Do we want to do something quick and move on to the next challenge? What are people's thoughts? Any strong opinions? I'm not seeing anybody in the chat here. Well, I guess I'm going to start designing this. We'll see how it shakes out. So feel like this y-axis should start at 0. And yeah. Okay. Is looking good. Let's do a new PowerPoint. So format background. So what are we looking for? Slide size, custom size. We're looking for a square. Okay. So have a title. Position 0.5. 0.5 verse. Let's just center that. That's not good. It's not going to let me snap to equal margins or size 2. Well, I guess we know that this is 7.5, so if we make it 6.5, we'll have it. Oh no, we're doing 1/4 inch now. So if we do 7 inches wide, that will be what we need. Go. Then let's see. Yeah. Okay. That's going to be a measure. And ooh. Very fancy. Okay. Well, we're going to have to just notice something that was going on. So we're actually going to have to do this not in PowerPoint at all. So that's fun. That'll be a new approach. Makes it worth doing. So let's set our background color. No, our page background color. Nice light gray. Yep. This is where we get fancy. Basically, we're going to have a different color for each measure and have the headers dynamically change color based on the selected measure. And we can't do that if we make our backgrounds in the this text. We can't do that if we make our backgrounds in the color or in PowerPoint. So we have to do it in Power BI. It's a little bit of a different approach. So that's nice. Yep. Yes. Colors. Steal one of Spencer's colors. And then or not the light green, the green. And then this one, bright green. How's that? I think that's tolerable. Okay. So then this object has no background. Which means our page background needs to be lighter. More colors. That's better. At this point, I'm just working more at copying Spencer's design because I really like it. And then we'll work on and making it work better for a square. So and I never use this approach in Power BI. I always just use PowerPoint. That's what I'm used to. That's decent. And then value. And may have to create a new measure for this. So let's do that. There we go. Does that not work? Switch your name. I don't know. We'll just use a card. Well, can we use a card? No, because we can't do Well, we could do a card plus something, but I actually want to do a smart. I want to use the smart narratives feature. Let's look at the documentation. Okay. So it's using that, so there we go. That's what it's looking for. So couldn't pass it a measure directly. I had to do that. Okay, so now we have our selected value for a box frame, the report, and we can make it this. Or based on rules. Says rules, let me select no. So this we need to have index equals switch values. Oh, we can actually just use our measure. Selected measure, comma, total revenue, comma 1, total profit, comma 2, total profit, comma 3. And now we can format our background color based on our selected measure. Index is 1, is 2, is 3. Then okay, but this doesn't remember our colors from before. So go ahead and repick those. This is this color. This is this color. And then This is this color. Okay, great. Now, great. This should be white times. Huh. A little underscore is a little annoying. So maybe Spencer did it with a card and layering. I think, oh yeah, this is just one big colored object rather than using smart narratives. Okay. So the way you do that then is, well, that was a fun exercise, but it doesn't really work for us, does it? Turn off this with the background off. Make the font 32. Start inserting shapes. This one follows our background rules. Yes, with okay, like this. Okay, so why didn't this? Oh, because it's the background, not the fill. Well, I don't know why it needs both a background property and a fill property, but you know, we won't judge too hard on that particular thing. More properties are usually better than others, even if we can't think of what they're for. So now that we've got our box, basically what they did is inserted another shape, decent interval side of it, and this shape, our fill, is outline off, and that's pretty much the design that we have. Turn on the outline, that be black. We'll have, there we go. And now we've roughly replicated that. And let's turn off totals. See, working in PowerPoint is just much easier, but can't do dynamic coloring, so. Column header. None. Let's see. Here we go. Show. I see. The visual as designed. This doesn't have any year context. This prior year isn't really correct. What's going on here is this is all years, and then this selects the most recent year, which is not really how you work your standard time patterns in. Like normally you would assume that the user must select a time period, unless they really did want to see this, which is sort of year to date up to the year. So that's interesting. We'll have to think about that. I guess one approach would be to have a year slicer here. Well, this solves for a different problem, really. No. Okay. Well, I need a break. I'm starting to get a little worn out. So, I think I don't know if I want to wrap up here or come back in an hour. I don't know. What do people think? If I came back in an hour, would people want to come back, or are people ready to wrap up as well? Oh man, all of a sudden, a whole bunch of chats showed up that I hadn't seen. So no wonder there have been no interactions. Yeah, so Shannon, we started on week 5. We haven't done 8 weeks, we've done 4. yeah. I did weeks 1 and 2 before, and I did week 3 by accident as part of my week 2. And so then we switched to week 5 because week 4 was more of the same data set, and I wanted to start from scratch rather than fiddling with something that we'd pretty much already built. But yeah, we've made pretty good progress. Not totally happy with this one. We learned some cool stuff about different formatting options, but obviously what we've come up with isn't as nice yet as what Spencer published, which is no surprise. One, because he's good at data visualization, and that's not something I claim to be professionally good at. And 2, we're not done. But yeah, I think we're going to wrap up here. It's been, almost 4 hours. And I don't know what I'm going to do. Maybe I'll clean the kitchen. Probably not. Anyway, thanks everybody for hanging out. Have a good day, a good night, and maybe we'll do this again sometime. Part of the impetus for this is that my wife has returned to working at the brewery on Sundays. Her family owns a brewery, and so I am by myself on Sundays. I'm not cutting into our plans by doing these. Anyway, that's it for me, and have a good one. Bye.